Welcome to Apprentice.io's Industry Insights, where this is the conclusion of our multi-part interview with Apprentice.io's co-founder and CEO, Angelo Stracquatanio. This is the 10-year anniversary for Apprentice as a company, and we get into a wide range of topics throughout the interview, which was around 2 hours in length. So please enjoy part 3 as the finale of the interview. All right, Angelo, if you can describe a bit about the fundraising process, the complexity of raising money, especially in difficult capital markets from VCs, what that is like, what that was like at the beginning of the organization, and what that is like in working with them now.
So we've kind of touched on a lot of different pieces of the journey. We talked about kind of product evolution, go-to-market evolution, industry evolution, and a really important piece of this is like capital evolution too. And in the early days, we talked a lot about my credit card and maxing out that card and everything associated with trying to squeeze every single penny of everything that we had, whether that was these extraordinarily small rooms at the YMCA as we were traveling, or these insane things we did where we were like gaming United Airlines to figure out these like layover legs that were cheaper and free, but we would leave the airport, go meet with a customer, and come back. You get this like extra value from like a multi-stop city thing, like really crazy stuff in a interesting time from like a capital perspective. To then fast forward almost 4 years into the business, we finally raised our first round of financing in 2017. And here at the onsite, I know you saw this, Frank, but we showed the evolution of our pitch decks.
Yes.
And what I had to learn from 2014 to 2017 in terms of, how do you build a business? And then once you have that framework in mind, how do you then work backwards to raising capital? And then how do you find someone who's willing to take a risk, with you? And when I look back, Roger Chen and Michael Dodd from Silverton Partners, have been these extraordinary partners and friends to me. And, I texted them actually before the 10-year anniversary because, again, it's a big like milestone. It's a big nostalgic moment. And, they put me on the field. They didn't just invest money. They put me and Gary and our first employee number one, yeah, Frank, they put us on the field. They gave us an opportunity to go after this vision, to go after this crazy thing. And so, I have such a different lens on what I think venture is all these years later than what I thought it was back then.
Right. And venture is not only a business of money, it is a business of relationships first and foremost.
And that is by far the biggest learning because, as a founder, you could very easily look at your investors as kind of, capital allocators and people who just write these checks, sign these term sheets, and like, you write these press releases.
It's Daddy Warbucks coming to the rescue to give me the capital so that I can build the business so that they can cash out even more. But it is more than that is.
It's so much more than that. Yeah. And, while they're not day-to-day employees in the business, they have become the most trusted advisors, mentors, confidants, cheerleaders, every single positive thing you can relate to having someone alongside you growing the business. And while Silverton was obviously the first, they were the first, they wrote the first check in 2017. And, looking back, it was a $2.5 million round. 10 years later or 7 years later, we've raised over $200 million. So, we had two zeros on top of that. But at the end of the day, fundamentally venture, I couldn't imagine getting this far without it because while Roger and Mike, still with us today, I still talk to them, I still text them. We strategize, we plan, we set goals together. We get through these very challenging periods together. But they're not the only ones. As the team grew, folks like Chris Gregenti from Pritzker Group, who has been an extraordinarily kind of powerful figure for me, to then Nikhil Sachdev from Insight Partners, who is extremely gifted, just both operationally, financially, strategically. I mean, he's been one of the biggest pieces of our puzzle as we've scaled. To then our newer investors who came in the last 2-3 years now, with Joshua Sarzi from Alkion and Caroline G from Iconic, adding their firepower and horsepower into this, where they know what greatness looks like and have pushed us and me and the business in order to achieve that, combined with the extraordinary amount of data that they then bring to the table. I mean, venture is not just risk capital. And the relationships that we've built, the advice that they've given, the guidance, the support, everything associated with it, I think has come at a higher value than just capital. I think capital, especially during the ZERP era, started to become, between funds, it was kind of hard to distinguish, is it just capital or is it the person? I think we really identified not just the capital during that period, but we identified the right people. And it's no different than the people you hire, bringing in the right investors around the table, of which I think we really got right. Not just the partners, but the team around there, like Nicole Scheimer and Alexandra Ludin from Insight as well. These are people that have become not only great advisors, but also great friends, because this business is really hard. Venture is really, really hard, and scaling a business is not only scaling it under good conditions, but scaling it under challenging macroeconomic conditions. These are things that are really tough. And so, there's the people side of venture, there's the capital side of venture, obviously, and then there's just the general process. Fundraising is a process, and I don't just show up and say, "Hey, give me money."
Give me money. Yeah.
I take a very similar approach to even my own customers, where you build trust and credibility over time. You can't just show up like, "All right, time to raise more money now. Write a check, please."
And that's been kind of the biggest learning on my side, is the fact that fundraising does not begin when you're looking for the money.
No.
Fundraising begins building those relationships way before then. And even a no as an initial no doesn't mean it's always going to be a no. It's okay. Here's what you need to work on. Here's what you need to do to grow as an organization, to grow as a company, to put us in a place where now we have confidence to be able to invest. So an initial no, how many times have we heard no before and then gotten to a yes later on once certain dynamics have been met within the business?
Yeah, I look at no, getting a no is actually a very valuable thing. No in and of itself provides extreme value, because no one's out to not invest in your business. They don't wake up every morning and they're like, "Oh man, how many people am I going to try to say no to? I really like saying no." That's not the case. There's a reason why. There's something that is either wrong with the strategy, your approach, the product, the market, the team, the whatever it is. When you get a no, it almost always comes with some reason. And that reason, you have a choice in that moment. You could either dismiss, right? And be like,
"Oh, what are these guys?
They've never,
they don't see the vision, the great vision.
Yeah, how could they not?"
Right.
Or you could look at it and say, "Wait a second. I should take this feedback seriously. I need to make a change in my business, or with myself, or with my vision, or whatever it is, in order to eventually get to a yes." Because even Silverton, our first investors, Roger Chen said no 3 times. Three. Before, and he wasn't the only one, obviously, but he kept giving feedback, and we kept pushing, and we kept up-leveling the business to a point where he finally was comfortable to say yes. And not just him, Iconic, Caroline, I knew her and the team for over 5 years, multiple no's as well. But each time I learned something different. Each time we improved, and each time, we got closer to finally working together. And so, venture, I'm so thankful it exists as a category, because I think us, we wouldn't have made it as far as we are. But I'm also very thankful not just the category exists, but the people within the category, because it is not like public market investing. Jensen Huang, my number one CEO crush. I think he definitely reads Twitter and feedback from customers, and maybe public retail investors. But like, venture is different. Like these are people that are with you along the journey, and it behooves any entrepreneur to really take their feedback thoughtfully and seriously, and obviously apply your own framework, obviously apply your own opinions, and make a decision yourself. But like venture, I'm just really thankful for the category existing and the people within it, because otherwise there's no shot we would have made it, 10 years. No way.
All right. Go into further detail on board management, what makes a good board to have in place, and what makes them good partners, not only good board members to have in place. And you've touched a little bit on that but between the VCs, but in running the board meetings, how does that go in terms of being able to make sure that things in the organization are running as smoothly as what they need to? And that you have board input and agreement and alignment on all that.
So just like fundraising, you can't show up at a board meeting and be like, here's my plan. Board dynamics are all built on trust, and that foundation of trust and transparency is really, really, really critical.
Going into a board meeting with the surprise is not a good
meeting. So like I always aim, I'm not always successful at having a boring board meeting. My number one goal every board meeting is to have a boring board meeting. Because if I had a boring board meeting, that means I did my job successfully. It means it's not just the meeting itself. It's not just the pre-board meeting meetings, but it's the time between the last meeting and the current one. It's the strategy that I set at the last one. It's the vision I set 3 before it. It's the capital I raised 6 before it. Like everything's connected. A meeting is just not a meeting. You don't just show up in June and like, hey, this is what we're discussing today. And so, it takes years plural, of building trust through transparency and collaboration and treating them like partners. They are not just these people who give you money. If you treat them for the extraordinary talent that they actually are, well, then not only can you obviously create an outcome together, partnering together, that is really high, but at the same time, you can create a very collaborative board dynamic versus a hostile board dynamic. And I think when I look back on these 7 years of being venture backed, 10 years in total, I'm very, very thankful that we've been, and it goes both ways, by the way. They have to want to create relationships with me too. I'm only one piece in the puzzle, but they thankfully have chosen that path, and we've created a very healthy, collaborative, challenging at times, but challenging is different than hostile. Challenging is pushing me to look at things in a way to ultimately get the business to be successful. And so I approach our board meetings, relationships, dynamics from the foundation of trust first, build it over time, because trust is earned. I don't just show up on a Thursday at a June board meeting. And then there's like mechanical stuff. Like I like to do pre-board meetings because I don't want surprises. And, inevitably there's something, whatever it ends up being. And so I just like to have pre-board meetings just to help set the stage, get a sense of where everyone is, share what's top of mind. And then the meeting itself, we'd like to make it collaborative. We'd like to make it constructive. And the most important thing of that meeting is to solicit feedback. Clear, truthful, transparent feedback. I want to hear everything in the meeting, because if I know what we need to do to improve, well, I can action on it. If I don't do that and I didn't extract that feedback, well, then how are we going to do better? How are we going to know if we're miscalibrated? How just
with a Jersey attitude, tell it like it is. Don't sugarcoat it. Just lay it on me. I'm not going to be hurt by it. So
and we're not. We've developed a lot of thick skin over the years, and I think, and it's not thick skin. That's too strong. It's receiving feedback at a board level is more than just receiving feedback and actioning on it. You have to have built the foundation of trust to have them be comfortable to give you feedback.
Right.
Because if they're not comfortable to give you feedback because you yourself are hostile, sharp, defensive, uncoachable, if you're any of those things, well, guess what? It's hard for them to do that thing too. And so You know,
They haven't Sam Altman you yet, so so right,
for those of you
exactly.
listening, I'm crossing my fingers.
Yeah.
No, I kid. But no, in all seriousness,
Right.
you build that foundation of trust, and together you can create an outcome that you couldn't do alone.
No, completely agree. The management team is constantly evolving the management process
Yeah.
within Apprentice, and to continually tune the organization to be as good as it can be. What's your philosophy around OKRs, as well as getting everyone in the business aligned and invested in the mission of Apprentice?
I love this piece.
Yeah.
This has been something we've evolved over. So one of the other people that's really important to this whole story, you have the entire team internally, we have the board externally, but one of the other important people that's been extraordinarily critical in helping advise me to be successful is my CEO coach, excuse me, Kurt Dando. We've been working together now for almost 8 years. Very long time in the trenches together, shoulder to shoulder. And, he's been the one to help me really set up an operational cadence, rhythm, alignment, and clarity. And so, the way that we approach things operationally are coming from some corporate organizations may feel very uncomfortable and unique. But the way that we do this, which I think you nailed it, it's constantly evolving, is number one, we set an extraordinarily clear mission and vision with time connected to it. So for us, it's we want to produce 35% of the world's drugs by 2030. Macro slowed that goal down. We might have to change the date a little bit, but at least as an organization, we know our mission in life is to produce a third of the drugs in the world because we know that the impact it will have at a humanity level scale, and that's what wakes us up every morning to go after that. So once you have that very clear vision and measurable goal with a time associated with it, you can then work backwards into then, we just went through this in the last 2 days, are your yearly goals. So for us, that's where these things called objectives and key results, OKRs, come into play. And OKRs are really interesting because they're different than a KPI, which people may be familiar with. KPI is just a metric. We track KPIs, but we track them in what we call scorecards. And that's all they are. They are a scorecard to tell me where are we, how is this thing performing, but they are not the goal or objective we're trying to hit. And so for us, unfortunately, this objective I can't share publicly what we're trying to accomplish in 2025. But just know we have a very clear and measurable top level, what we call tier 0 objective. That's a goal set by me. And even how I arrive at that is also quite unique. So I do this thing called Vision Quest. No ayahuasca. Oh my God. No drugs. Just I lock myself in a hotel room once a quarter. And my big yearly planning cycle, which I just finished in November, I lock myself in a hotel room for a little, like couple extra days. I go to Manhattan. If you could see it through the clouds, we're in Jersey City, so I just head over to Manhattan because it's close by. But for 4 days, I lock myself in a hotel room. I review all the data historically. I look ahead, and I try to set very clear, measurable, understandable, and achievable objectives that we then try to work backwards to. Do I always get it right every year? No, obviously. But at least like to start with something big, exciting, hard, like something that like really gets people motivated and wakes them up in the morning. And then from there, we define the key results. How do we measure our success on the path to that objective? And that's where we define what we call the OKR cascade, where the tier 0 cascade that I set, on my little vision quest, and all the key results that are the metrics for whether or not we were successful achieving that thing. Again, I wish I could share this publicly, but this one is this year in particular is a little bit more specific because of the agentic stuff. So I don't want to tip my hand too much. But anyway, point is, once I set the top level objective and the key results, we then cascade that down to each department, because then each person should know exactly what he or she is doing and why, and which objective he or she is connected to. And so then once the whole organization is aligned to the goal, once the whole organization has his or her respective target connected to the goal, once we've battle tested the strategy that supports those goals, well, then we develop something we call the quarterly tempo. Quarterly tempo is similar to what David Sachs, another very well-known VC, he called it I think it was called the cadence, he called it. We took it a little extreme. We call it the quarterly tempo, hence the product. Our product is called Tempo. But we have it orchestrated so that every week of the quarter is pre-planned for every team. So we know for our corporate goals, every board meeting, well, that's really the big one each quarter for the corporate level. Then we move into executive. So I know when it's week 6 is when my vision quest is. Then from there, we move backwards to finance. We know every week the monthly closes. We work backwards from that. We then know the sales cadence and the revenue cadence where we do monthly revenue kickoffs. We then work backwards from that. And we know where product, engineering, QA, and compliance all fits into their quarterly deployment schedules. And we snap the whole business together across every single work stream. So that when you take that foundation, which is time, that's all it is, and you time box the objectives that we just set, well, then now every person in the business knows what they have to do, knows what strategy they have to go to pursue it, and they know how much time they have to go after it. And then once you have those components in place, well, then it's how do I achieve that thing? And that's where process comes into play. Admittedly, process was a bit of a weakness for me in the earlier days.
Well, you're at different levels and scale in the organization. You require different things. So different management of that.
And the other piece was we weren't really sure of our process. We weren't sure of how we were going to sell this wildly complex piece of software. Mm-hmm. We weren't sure of the gates, the qualifications, the activities, the stages. In R&D, we weren't sure of how long things would take to build. So there was always this odd dynamic of like, how do we develop in a process that doesn't slow down engineering or slow down sales velocity or anything like this, but how then can it at least support how to go about doing something? So, R&D is a perfect example of this. We now have this orchestrated in the business where we have our top level objective for the year, the OKRs for all of R&D. We then have our quarterly tempo and release schedule where every week we know when product requirements need to be done, engineering needs to be cut into alpha, when it goes into beta, when it gets validated and released. Lower level from that, we then have all the product level initiatives defined. So these are the goals that we have for our product. We then level down from that, know all of our investment areas. This is how much of a percentage of our roadmap we're dedicating to this group of initiatives. Lower down from that, we've orchestrated then all of the story points and capacity estimates for the people working on those things. And then the process is then defined as the requirements writing to then engineering review to then in development to then QA review and then so on and so forth. And then when you get all the way to the end of this, you have this extraordinarily, I like to think, beautifully designed, orchestrated system that is constantly living and breathing. It gives you feedback. And when you can solicit that feedback, you're able to adapt constantly. And that's how I think we've been most successful over these 10 years is that we've had to adapt to so many different market conditions, competitive threats, capital allocation, strategic changes. The adaptation of what we've had to do over those years, I think, is due to this what may seem complex, what may seem a little over the top, which may seem even at times a bit micromanagement to the outside, actually is a system that when you're in it and you really believe in that system, provides this extraordinary clarity, which when that clarity then can help you know exactly what you need to do to be successful as an individual, is freeing, fulfilling, exciting, challenging, and everything else. And so that then has related to really high retention. Our core team has not left. And we have like a minimum 2 year experience right now on core of R&D delivery and some of our other kind of core functions, and an average to 3.5 plus. which is really extraordinary because it means that this team now believes in this system, knows how to play within the system, and can be successful within that system, both as individuals and as a team.
Yeah. So having the team together has been one of our major avenues of success within this industry. From when we started, small team, we needed people as soon as we could get our hands on them, and then COVID hit, and then we needed to accelerate the business extremely fast. What is your philosophy, and how did you go about hiring the right people? Obviously, we've hired very good, competent people who have stayed, believe in the mission of the company, but as we were beginning to scale to great lengths post-COVID, we needed to bring on board lots of people in a very short period of time and make sure that those people had the highest quality. We're still going to be mission driven. We're still going to follow in the organization. How do you view the hiring of, who's going to be a good fit for Apprentice?
Yeah, so the way that we approach hiring is kind of connected to that management kind of style of setting clear vision and mission, working backwards to the system and framework, and then executing at a really high level. At the end of the day, we are a very mission-driven organization. Everyone here is a believer, and they believe in something more than just building software. We're not making software to sell widgets or I don't want to choose any industry because I don't want to talk down on any other piece of software. But for us, the software we write is being used to manufacture the most critical therapeutics that human beings around the world are using to have a better quality of life, to, extend their longevity, to be healthy and happy, and all these things. Like really, really impactful stuff. So the first thing that we generally screen for is people who care about that mission and who want to be part of something that has an impact towards that mission. Because when you can find people that believe in it, you can create this like really special outcome, that it just is extremely unique. It's these, the team is really gelling really well and they know why we're doing something and they believe in the mission for it, you can get these magical outcomes that feel just so, extraordinary. And I think because at the core, we are a team of mission-driven people.
And just to bring to the point, software people hate regulatory frameworks.
Yeah,
software people hate that kind of restrictions and what they need to do and the validation process and all of that. But we have assembled a team of people who are actually going through the process on a quarterly basis for being able to provide this very high-level product with all of this built in, but also need to deal with the regulatory frameworks where most other coders would take a look at that and go, that's too hard. Why do I need those restrictions? Why do I need to deal with that bullshit? In these cases, it is, okay, we have those mission-driven people who we've hired who are all in and understand why the regulatory framework is so important, why following the process, why following the validation is really a key part of the process and has really given us a moat in this industry where other people find it hard to find that talent to be able to put to task.
People want to know why they're doing something.
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that there's a purpose. They want to know why they're being required to do something. And so when you start with the foundation of people who believe in the mission and the impact that, their work has, you can build a process around that to comply with those requirements, but to still find a way to generate extremely high velocity, even with those components kind of built into the process. And so if you get the initial kind of core mission-driven profile right, well, then it's a matter of kind of, a lot of standard prototypical kind of talent evaluation process and interviewing and things like that. I think, we have up-leveled our bar for talent over time, just because we've learned a lot of different things. And I think we have it to the point now where it's pretty well dialed in. And, if you find the right person that's excited by the mission, that really understands what we're trying to do, that, believes in kind of the management framework we've put into place for why that even exists in the first place, and they run, I mean, it is really cool to watch when someone comes into this company and just rips.
Yeah. As we begin to wind down our talk here today, what is the message that you have for other team members as well as customers of Apprentice, and where we are planning to take the company over the next couple of years?
Even though over the last 10 years, I like to think that we've built a very unique, capable, and next generation manufacturing system. The new intelligent capabilities is going to be unlike anything we've ever touched, seen, thought of, or used ever. And so for customers, teammates, employees, investors, whatever, Apprentice's next chapter, we're calling it the AI era. And it is all in on AI. But it's not all in on AI from just a prototypical foundational model generative AI capability set. It's looking at how manufacturing software has been used and deployed for not just our 10-year history, but the years and decades before Apprentice, and how to take all of those learnings and package them into something that is just wholly unique in terms of how things are made. How are things made, and how does software make things? That whole piece of it, I think, is going to get very different.
Any closing statements you want to give for wrapping this whole thing up? Or
yeah, I want to just say thank you to you, Frank. You're employee number one. You were the employee for 4 years. I always wanted to be part of this business before we even started working together. And, I want to thank you for not only the time we spent together, but for the major impact you've had on the business, on our customers, and me. Like, I've learned an extreme amount from you, not just the 7 years together, but the 10 years we've known each other. And, when I look back, relationships matter as much to me now as, the financial success or the product success or the market success. And so, thank you, Frank. That is what I'm going to close with, is a thank you to you for being with us through this journey for all these years, and hopefully many, many, many more to come.
And thank you back to you for making me a part of this journey. It's been definitely a wild ride, and I'm looking forward for another interesting 10 years ahead of us.
We got a lot to go.
All right.
Thanks, Frank.
man. All right. Enjoy. Have a good day, and we'll see you soon. All right. Good, man.
That was a lot of fun.
In an industry where precision and compliance are paramount, Apprentice's Tempo platform offers a cutting-edge manufacturing execution system solution. It's cloud-based, mobile-first, operator-centric, with the most intuitive UI in the industry, making it perfect for today's dynamic pharmaceutical manufacturing environments and for the production of the world's most complex drug products. Whether you're working on groundbreaking cell and gene therapies, biologics, or small molecules, Tempo provides a fully validated MES system that's both powerful and easy to use. It streamlines your processes, ensures compliance, and adapts to your specific manufacturing needs. So get off of paper batch records and discover how Apprentice's Tempo Manufacturing Cloud can transform your operations by visiting us at apprentice.io. Attention industry professionals, revolutionize your manufacturing process with the Apprentice Tempo Manufacturing Cloud, a manufacturing execution system built to streamline your operations, boost efficiency, and ensure compliance all in one powerful platform. Experience the future of manufacturing with our free 30-day trial. Scan the QR code on your screen now to unlock a world of innovation. Don't just keep pace, set the tempo as an industry leader with Apprentice. That's all for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications when new episodes drop. Please comment on if you have any additional topics you would like for me to cover in this space, and we'll see you next week for more Industry Insights.